but under the gun. All right, so we'll begin on Wednesday, January 18th meeting, work session meeting. I would like a motion to approve the work session minutes from December 6th, 2022 and December 21st, 2022.
I make that motion.
Moved in second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Jones.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just update on some projects, the street light replacement program. We have pre-construction meeting scheduled for next Tuesday, the 24th. With KLS Keystone Lighting and also the contractor with the farmers. Apparently all the materials have been procured. So we're just trying to get into their schedule for the installation. The hope is that by mid-February, we have everything complete. End of February, the latest. Good. PennDOT Green Light Go grant, working on the application to submit for that program. This would be to update all the detection equipment along Main Street. This is essentially a phase 2 of the adaptive system, where we got the adaptive software and some other hardware approved through the TST grant. So this would be a phase 2 of that. Applications are due at the end of the month. Park cameras, we're set on reusing a couple of old signal mast arms. Actual arms will work. Took some time to get some idea of, just because of the weight of the poles, making sure that we were going to do it safely, so size of the anchor bolts and things of that nature. So that took a little bit of time. But we've got all the materials. We're getting the poles painted now. So hopefully by the end of next week, we should have the poles installed and then ready for the cameras.
Hey, Dave. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for finding later.
Well, I talked to our signal contractor Higgins, and they suggested not selling, not doing it. But you never know for a knockdown. Doing it this way, we can still reuse them if we have to.
Right. Yeah.
And just pull the cameras off.
Already painted, just pop them.
And reuse it, because the math portion of the poles we're going to still have in stock. It's just the arms that we're using. So they're still available if we would ever need them. Speaking of that, we did have an accident at 113 Landis Road. It was an overnight crash. It was a single vehicle crash where they actually painted the pole on the east and west. Talked to Higgins initially. They weren't that concerned about it, but I suggested that we just go ahead and replace it since we have an offending party, and this will come up on Higgins inspection for every year from now until doomsday if we don't get it replaced. So we're moving forward with that. Salford Quarry, EPA is doing test borings. They get
They did. They filled it up nicely.
Yesterday.
The day before, yeah.
Put some stone on the entrance so that they were dragging mud out of the road. So they're moving forward with that project.
Regulate sediment creeks.
Just some department activities. We're doing a significant amount of sign replacement. These are on the resurfaced roads as part of our program to update the signs as we're required to. So the easiest thing for us to do is when we resurface a road, just do wholesale replacement of the signs, or even doing the posts. So just a brighter, cleaner looking appearance. So everything looks new. So we're working on that. We did some improvements at Mainland Road, at Store Road. There's an issue with vehicles not stopping at the stop sign, Mainland Road as you approach Store. It's a lot of the cut through traffic trying to avoid the long queue for the turnpike flip ramp. So I think everybody's in a hurry there. So we added some additional stop ahead signs, put flashers on them, doing some pavement markings, not completely done. Tried to do it a couple of weeks ago. Weather wasn't ideal for it. So we're trying to use preformed thermoplastic where you just heat it down, getting a real good results. We decided just to do the minimum at this point. Then once the weather becomes more conducive, then we'll go back and refresh it. We're gonna add some additional stop bars. We're going to add some, seen them there, like, white marks on the side of the, on side each of the lane markers. And then they get progressively closer, give you the appearance, it's a traffic calming measure, give you the appearance that you're going faster. So hopefully people will slow down in addition to obeying the stop sign. So there's a number of things that we're trying to do there to try to improve the situation. Doing seasonal maintenance on all of our equipment at this point. Last year I came across some a different type of playground mat. It's a dense foam mat. They're 11 inches thick and they're varying widths for underneath the swings and slides. The problem with those is that it's a perpetual maintenance problem with the swing. It's taking up with the playground market. So with these mats installed, they're not dishing them out. So we're retaining the necessary thickness for our safety surface, our falling surface. So we're installing those at all of our playgrounds. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll have all of the playgrounds. We started this at Briarwick. We did that new installation. We did it over at the community center for that installation, and then we're just progressively going through the rest of our parks. So hopefully in the next month or so, we should have all those. Did a significant number of pothole repairs. There was just a period of time there where it seemed like everything was blowing. We have an issue with the old, a lot of the roads that were just chip sealed and chip sealed and chip sealed, where you get potholes that are 3/4 of an inch or an inch thick. So it's really difficult to do a patch, just filling it because it's not even holding. So we're looking at some other methods and probably going to be doing some milling and repairs, basic repairs on those just to correct them once and for all. Did a lot of hauling of some fill dirt from the stone yard to Lake Park to assist with the greenhouse project. Also got rid of some. We have a meeting scheduled this week with staff, CKS, Perkins Watershed, and Community Center about a bioretention basin on the community center site, right next to the pavilion and the playground. So that I think that was included in our MS4 program to part of our pollution reduction plan. Lastly, the James House on the golf course. We had an issue a couple of weeks ago with a broken domestic water pipe. Probably, I mean, that the house is unoccupied. The only really use for that house at this point is the golf course is using it for winter time painting of tee markers, trash cans, whatever. So it created a little bit of a mess. Luckily it was on the domestic water side, not the heating side. So golf course staff, they cleaned up what they could. But just kind of begs the bigger question is what's the plan? Do we have a plan for these buildings? Not only there, but elsewhere. We started just spitballing and kicking around some ideas, and the golf course also uses the barn that's there just for winter storage of equipment and parts and supplies, irrigation parts, hoses, that kind of stuff. So just spitballing, we're thinking that if both of those buildings were demolished, then it would be an opportunity to put another structure up that would be more conducive to their needs and also to help us with our needs as well, that we could store plows in there in the summertime. And the thought is that, in moving towards a new public works facility, it would be an ideal spot to house some equipment during the transition. We could also house an emergency storage facility for salt on that site, so that we could essentially keep the same size salt building that we have currently at our 310 alumni location, and then have an additional off-site emergency storage stockpile at the golf course. But I think there's some benefits for not only the golf course but also for the township. But just again, we're just trying to get things on radar and try to get some direction as to what What the use might be for that house and the barn, if anything. Talk to Stuart, he and I, discuss this piece. All in favor of doing that as well. So just wanted to bring to the board's attention that, there are potential issues with these uninhabited houses that I think are sooner or later, the house is just gonna fall into disrepair from this district now. That, I think really something should be done with the rest of it. Just want to get that on.
First, the house is on, who's responsible? I mean, the house did not come with, the golf course is not taking care of that. They just have access to it, but the recreation authority.
Well, that's part of the golf.
Yeah, so it's under the.
At one point, they had employees who would live there kind of as a benefit to the employees. But that's not happened, gosh, 8 or 9 years probably. But when I first came here, they were still doing that. And then whoever was left.
Eric.
Yeah.
Harrisburg.
How about our other properties as well? I know we've had discussions before, the Rotary had some interest in helping maintain that.
Yeah, I think the only other house that we need to talk about is probably Help Road house over here.
Which is rented.
Which is rented, so I mean, there's not an issue as far as falling apart. But it's an issue just as, is it something that Patrick wants to keep doing, being a landlord for people, so to speak, and the Stover Road house. That has some issues because of the way the property was purchased. It was purchased with federal funds in the 70s. And we'd have to go back to the federal government and ask their permission and go through hoops. And I don't think we have any idea of doing anything with Rife or Peckler.
Right.
Those two homes are, and Birdie, keep historical structures, but I think the James house and this house over here, I think we need to discuss the long term, what we want to do with them. They just don't, again, this house over here. Long term, we're not really getting money. I mean, we're getting a little bit of money out of the rental, but the upkeep and everything else that we have to do with it is not. The cost benefit is not necessarily great.
And if we were to diversify for something else, it's really.
And we've had to replace heaters in there and things like that. So, I mean, there are years where we don't make any money off of it because of the property. To sell a property, at least you'd have, that revenue, the sale. Somebody else.
None of them are really, I mean, like the Colt Road, that's not in a subdivided position to sell. Nor does it have.
That would be our issue. We'd have to subdivide it off of this property.
And create a flag lot to a lot that doesn't have right frontage.
Correct. Well, I mean, it has the road, the drive.
That's not a public road.
It's fine. You have some sort of easement agreement with
Yeah.
whoever purchased the property.
Not easy.
No,
Yeah,
but I mean, I think this one's probably easier than like Stover Road, for instance.
yes,
Stover Road is gonna be a
you're legally.
bit of a hurt because of the legal issues with the federal government, and then we would actually have to go through the federal government, go through I would imagine, because federal government, a pretty laborious process to just ask. And at
Right.
that point, they could say, no, we don't.
It's difficult and they often say no.
I was.
I've tried widening a road in front of the park that came from the fence. It's just not.
But for the golf course one, I mean, I'd be open discussion. I'm not, and Doug, I hear what you're saying, I'll have to think about it a little bit. I'm not sure. Because of where it sits right on 113 that we'd have to see how that would sit and how it'd be commercially, because I'm not sure that's where I want to. It's a shame it's not in a different spot on the golf course property that's less visible.
I think there's ways that we can make it, less intrusive.
Right. And did the pipe just, what was it? It was heated properly? Was it just a?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Is it, I mean, I guess the other question is, since it's not being used for anything other than storage, can't it just be winterized and turn the, drain the pipes at this point?
I think that's our next best.
Yeah. Right. Then at least you don't have those problems coming from it.
Oh, and, we're paying to heat it.
Yeah.
For long,
Right,
for almost no reason.
right. Well, I'd be open to suggestions and stuff. If they come up with some.
I don't know, it might be worthwhile getting some kind of sketch put together of what. A pole barn or what you're looking at trying to do over there, and then kind of give it the.
Yeah, who's paying for it, who's it?
Where they're coming from.
Yeah.
That'd be my thoughts, and then we can decide from there. And conceptually, you know, it becomes an attractive nuisance, right? Last thing you want, the fire company going out there putting a fire out, just somebody turned into an idiot.
And every year it shows up on Divots, inspection lists with broken windows and issues with gutters and siding and, and the barn is essentially, it's Swiss cheese.
Separate
so
parcel. Then we go, oops.
I don't think it is, but again, this is something that is scheduled at better out.
Right.
For discussion, definitely next meeting as well. I have to think about this a little bit, familiarize myself a little with it. Well,
Yeah, do a drive-by. There is, the maintenance for the golf course has a building over there. We have the cart sheds over there, so it's not like it's. Overly attractive, but what Chris is saying, it's right on 113, it's fairly prominent going through there.
Yeah, and I'm
it
just,
probably narrows where the house is.
well, that's what I say, the angle where it comes in on it's right, you could put, but if you take those both down and just almost do something that's parallel to the cart barn further back and then make a berm in the front there, you could potentially, do something. Yeah. And get rid of the, redo maybe the curb cuts, because you got 2 curb cuts out there adjacent to each other as well.
Sketch it up.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate
We're
you
trying
doing
for something new.
Right,
at the least, definitely.
yes.
Anything else for Doug? Go ahead.
You mentioned the south quarry. I was curious how I drive by the other quarry, the road still to me looked pretty terrible. Your take on that and where we are with that? I noticed they're starting to chip away already. Fortunate that the weather's not.
Yeah, that's been part of the challenge is that it's been, it's been warm and it's been wet. So. I haven't visited the site, to witness the tire wash in effect. I'm assuming that they are using it. But. There are days when the road still looks dirty. Especially after a rainy day. I know that they have a sweeper running almost constantly. So. Yeah. And I'm not sure if it was maybe my impression that the tire wash was going to be the savior and solve all the problems.
Yeah, it helps a
Not
little.
sure that it's.
It helps some, not.
Yeah.
Especially when it's simple.
And the thing that I always noticed. I noticed the property, like people's properties. You can see the mud shot out all over their middle.
Street sweeper just blends it up there.
Especially in the winter, it's frozen if it's not, anything else there, it's not, and you can see. Trash.
Becomes a mist.
Yeah, I just noticed they had the trash out and, I drove by, I came by again and half, dirt halfway up with all the trash cans. I wouldn't be happy with that. So that,
And I know DEP was out there, I think sometime before Christmas. And they did see the mud on the road, and they did issue a violation to them. Fortunately, there, the remedy to the violation is, they submit a plan, what are you going to do? And then they put something together and it's like, okay, just be more diligent. And I think that's the DEP solution. We do have, the provisions in our agreement that, that we can, start defining. That's gonna be somebody, it's gonna be a concerted effort to do that and to do it properly. So, if that's the direction we wanna go, then that's fine. But I don't get it. I hear from the one property owner, and it's not necessarily just about the mud on the road, but it's other issues as well. But I don't get a lot of calls from anybody concerned about it, and it may just be that we've become accepting of the condition.
Yeah.
But we'll try to keep it a closer eye.
appreciate that. I encourage you guys to, in the next month,
Oh,
give it
down
a
there.
road and drive. I've gone through like August.
Two
Thank-
things,
Yes,
stop signs at Corey and Morris, We have one that's in the shoulder, I think, may have been, hit, kind of missing a bolt.
Okay.
In your travels, maybe take a look at that. Utility work on Aldifer, it would be good to have some advanced warning. They're parking that, warning machine in the park on our side. I assumed you were aware of all.
I was not.
Okay, you might want to drive by there, just
Well, this might be the,
fiber optic, it looks like the band.
I think it's Pico,
Oh,
that's redoing all the electric in the, Hunter Crest neighborhood.
all right, it's that around, whatever it is.
Okay, I will look at it.
You'll give it a birth over. That's all I had.
Okay.
I can split the session. Okay. All right, chief. Sir,
Yes, I need,
thanks, Doug.
Doug already covered the park cam updates, in addition. We have Michael installing that system on in the police cars and doing some local training. We discussed that last time. And just waiting to install the next 2 parks, and that'll complete phase 1. Practice and pick the next 4 parks. So, hopefully, because of the most of the electrical issues all over. Second pole, center, Park Avenue. Those are the most activity, but they also present with various challenges as far as it's not changing.
So is it in all the cars now, or you're still?
We're still in progress of doing it. That should be done. And as Mike wants to wait for the different squads to rotate. Day shift, we'll call. Should be. The only other thing I have is a brief update or executive session.
Very good.
Can I add something that just the chief was talking about previously was the school bus cameras? I did happen to talk to somebody from the transportation services, and it's not just the stops. Cameras before, from what I understand, there's like almost a dozen or about a dozen cameras that are going to be installed on each bus. So they can monitor all the kids, all the drivers' activity, basically everything. And also get GPS tracking in the buses where they didn't have before. So, I mean, there's a bigger picture to what they're doing on their end than just the, the school bus stop, violators. It's mentioned.
But is that all being paid for through the violation?
It's apparently, from what I understand, it's the company that's installing it is doing it. I think the violations probably paid for.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you're talking about 12 cameras per bus. That number keeps going up.
Yeah.
On what their investment is into this program. And I don't know if I see where that revenue stream is happening.
Well, Mass Transit companies, Step the landfill, they've had these cameras on their buses for all.
Right, but not revenue generating. We're gonna get their part of operation, their budget, So is the school district getting a discount or something? I don't,
It comes through a grant,
The details, they're just a conversation.
period.
I was surprised at the number of cameras that were being installed. And like I said, and it wasn't, because I just kind of thought it was just for the the stop violators, but it's just all encompassing.
You're right, cameras are big, but putting it through, they really have what? One spot of them there. Well, that's mentioned. That's real money.
They'll either have some. And more storage space.
Yeah. Yeah, where'd that be?
We hijacked your section of the agenda. Anything else? You're good? All right. Mr. Buki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're gonna be having a pretty busy couple of months. For the, from the building and zoning, permit perspective, it's we're off our point permits. Not a lot during January. No zoning hearing reports for the month of February, but the planning commission is gonna be pretty packed. We have the plan development, 355, Maple Avenue, nationwide property and fell. They actually took themselves off the December joint meeting. So we looking at that this month. 25 Maple Avenue, that's the subsidiary property, that's through the Pinbell parking lot. And Mainland Point, Brick Mass resubmitted the plan for the point plan development. You've already seen the plans, you've already seen the conditional use, this might just be real quick agenda item. So the plan, look at that as well. 702 Camp Wawa Road is a new lot line adjustment. From my perspective, I believe it was a pretty simple one. I think it even involved the same property. Both parcels just moving. So that's quite simple. There's a conditional use that's been submitted that the planning commission is going to be looking at 610 letter occupation Lang, proposing an accessory building, a detached garage that exceeds 30% threshold. And so he's also actually proposing a building addition. So it might not be as severe as it appears. So the building addition that he doesn't need any relief to, and then the accessory building were to exceed the 30% threshold.
It's a detached, not a garage attached, so if you figure out which attached, if you wouldn't need.
That is correct, but we talked about that too. Still want to complete that.
Is this one I heard something about, there's some reference to might be a commercial operation there that there is burn on?
There was a question.
Okay,
I think by email, but there's no concern. I spoke about it.
Okay.
Always pretty clear.
Surely record.
Department that, you're not allowed to use it for any purposes, had to be residential. So I told the applicant to be prepared to talk about that use of this. So
I think the concern was that his email address was for business. So that he didn't, so they were concerned that the garage may be used for the business.
and he doesn't need any relief on that for permitting services though, for the, or that he meets all that, just over the 30% of there, got it.
That's people.
What is it, letter up, what letter up is the old?
Letter Art Station Way, so it's not the upward, but it's in R1A. So that's the planning commission meeting, and then just as a heads up, obviously a lot of big agenda items. Planning commission roll over the board, so you're gonna be seeing potentially a lot of those items. Like development items, if they're more complex, it would be a discussion. Waivers, you might see the lot line adjustment or an actual approval scenario, or an actionable scenario, I would say. And along with that, we're consolidating all of the fees from the building and zoning department perspective into one document fee schedule. And so in doing so, we had to look into removing the fees that are located in the township code in chapter 84. And so Andy's working on an ordinance amendment. So he would be authorizing, in position to authorize advertisement of that ordinance amendment to remove the fees from chapter 84 in the ordinance. And then from there on out, the desire that the township adopt a new fee schedule every year by resolution. So any new fees would just go into this fee schedule as an update.
So the ordinance would reference the resolution, the fee schedule. That's by us.
Makes sense.
I had a quick question, Mike. Does our township have a standard set of like details for construction?
We do.
We do, okay, because we were looking at some site work on a job and in the township, and they were a mess. Like traps, like on inlets going into underground basins. Didn't show any traps on the inlets. I mean, it was a real mess, and then they had like 3 different specs for roadways, parking lots, and we really couldn't decipher it. We had to actually go back to the owner and say, "What are you doing here? Go back to your engineer and And I'm not sure what phase it was going through the township. But, like I said, it was very confusing, like that, how are you building this parking lot? Couldn't even tell from the way that the details showed in the plans. So I was just wondering if we had a standard setup that you can hand to somebody. You know, I was thinking about it also in, let's say you want to improve your basement. Is there a standard set of details for how you want the walls to be built? Fire blocking, that kind of stuff? Or do we have anything like that, or you just say, go to the National Fire Codes?
Not necessarily neatly buttoned for every scenario, but
I understand.
they're definitely there.
Okay.
Come up with a package,
Okay,
depending on.
yeah, because that helps a lot.
And when construction specs are generally provided from TKS to the design engineers, correct, when you construction detail, that,
Okay.
that whole sheet should be coming.
That's all through the land development.
Okay.
Problem I've run into with that is the engineers have their standard spec, so they'll keep that on.
Yeah.
Then they'll throw the township engineer spec on there.
Exactly.
What do you do? And if no one picks up on it until construction, it's like, well,
Right.
yeah,
How do you bid on it?
yeah.
It's impossible to figure out. Okay, thank you.
And
Gee whiz, that's enough.
Nothing under the moon.
No kidding.
If they're tooling your thumbs again.
I have one more question, Mike. I know I mentioned before. Maple. We did check it out, found it on the map. Still, I didn't see people today, but I could have got here early, but I, since that one, I think I see kids, literally families running back and forth. More than I actually anticipated.
Where are you talking? Oh, at the.
Spring Hill.
At
And,
Spring- oh, yeah, okay.
I know that, because I remember the pedestrian walk is gonna be on one side, but then over here, it's a little more time if you're gonna have it. But
I'm going
there's
to run that by.
Do they still?
there's no indication
Michelle.
that it's going to be built, and I mean,
Well-
I know they're still working, they're not done.
Yeah, but they don't have a ramp there.
They have a ramp there, but it's not on the other side, and I know that was the brief originally, that it was already set up on this side. This seems to be safer. But I do see some more people. I was just wondering if we maybe could reach out to them and say, hey, maybe you can expedite this part of your plan.
Does that section of road need to get milled and overlaid? Are they doing like a half width overlay on that? Because I know they haven't finally, between where they built the curb and the existing road, it's still not finished, and I wonder if that's why they're holding off, but that could be getting done, almost alien enough to build.
We had an email from last week, actually last week, from a resident who wanted to know if there was a on the other side at Maple and where Huckleberry comes in and crosses over Maple.
Oh,
That is on the plan, but it has not been completed yet, so I'm wondering if they were gonna do it.
Possibly, but and then I think the argument we could say too is with the two on that road, already, that one, there's enough.
at least get it, why haven't that? Like if they could build an overlay half width out there, which my guess is we typically do, if they've done that with the building, they'd probably wait until the final top coat is on with the crosswalk in. But let's find that out.
I think if we're down one. Yeah, one more thing I thought of actually is, well, I had somebody reach out, I spoke briefly with Joe, but actually I spoke with him this weekend too. Behind the Salford pub area, like Sturgis and all those roads down there, they're doing the eco work.
Oh, yeah.
I've been getting a lot of, originally, from what I heard, somebody was telling me that neighbors thought they were putting speed bumps. But I did drive through just this weekend, took a few pictures, I'll show you guys afterwards too, like some of the, it looks a little better now, but the speed bumps that they had temporarily were completely sideways. She was telling me that recently they knocked somebody's water line. I didn't tell them they had to knock on the door and say, hey, here they are, they're home now. So I heard that from what she said, they've been losing power off and on since Halloween. It's a lot of work that is not satisfactory. And I think if we're doing this again with Hunter Press, maybe we should, I don't know if we can say Pico, your contractor, this is what we're hearing, how that works, but I just want to let everybody be aware.
Yeah, we can reach out to Pico.
Yeah, I said, I know we did that before and it looks a little better. The one bump was straighter, but I mean.
No, my one site guy, looking at scenic and it's just his tolerance intermittent, and he knows what's going on. They're sort of being patient because it's an upgrade, but it's like taking a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a couple years.
Yeah, and they're notorious for doing a bad job at temporary patching. So down the road, and they'll come back. They will finally finish it, but it's just horrible. You can't help because They don't care. You can't.
That's, in the original conversation, what you all do. That's, hey. That's
Very little attempt at it. Can I give you the phone number for the PUC?
Anything else? For the good of the order? Okay, we will adjourn to executive session.